Wow. Okay, so let me ask you this. The relationships that you do have with realtors, I mean, it's really just a relationship business, right? I mean, just getting to know who these agents are, and you select who you would like to work with?
Correct. You're not going to have a lot of success if you're trying to work with an attorney and they don't even know your name. There's a process for this, and you at least need to be visible to the attorney, because we have so many realtors that would love to work with us. If you don't have a relationship with us, you're not going to have any success. So the key is not to blindly market the attorneys. It's to try to meet the attorneys, and not just attorneys like me. I mean, I might be better looking than most of the other attorneys, but there are attorneys that handle family law cases and that handle bankruptcy and, of course, real estate law, and we all have realtors we work with, and we like to get our clients to the realtors we have a relationship with, because we know they're going to handle the cases and the sales the way we want them to. So I actually have clients that have their own realtor, and often I try to talk them out of using their realtor and switching to mine.
Because you know, like, and trust them, and you feel confident in their ability to get the job done. Is that why?
That's absolutely right. Know, like, and trust. And I know that they're not going to argue with me about whether or not my clients have to do disclosures. That becomes one of the biggest issues. When the realtor starts arguing with me that we have to do full normal disclosures on a probate or trust sale, that tells me the realtor has no idea what they're doing.
So can you tell our listeners how to create relationships with these attorneys? Like, where do you guys hang out?
Absolutely. Because, you all know how important networking is.
Right.
And the key part of the word network is work. It's not necessarily something we do for fun.
Okay.
And if you go out there and network with all the other realtors, you may have a lot of fun, but how many referrals are you going to get from other realtors? Probably none, ever.
Right.
So the key is to get to places where you can find potential referral sources like these attorneys. One place to do it is the Bar Association. For example, here in Contra Costa, where we're talking, our Bar Association has a real estate section. They have a divorce attorney section, and they have a probate and estate planning section, and we have classes and events every month. Come to those. Here in the Bay Area, we have estate planning councils. So near here, there's the Diablo Estate Planning Council. There's the East Bay Estate Planning Council. And these are attorneys and everybody who wants to do business with them showing up for a monthly program. And that's a great place to meet realtors. And some of your realtors have attended with me recently as guests. Excuse me, I meant to say a great place to meet attorneys.
Okay, so I'm a realtor, and I think most realtors assume that attorneys have relationships already with realtors, and they won't be able to, like, what's going to make them special, make them stand out? So how do you recommend we overcome that self-objection that we create in our own mind?
Sure. Well, first, not all attorneys have that relationship. The younger attorneys or the newer attorneys don't. And even when I have relationships, my relationships are in Contra Costa County, California. So what do I do if I need a realtor somewhere else? Well, I ask the realtors I know for a referral. But if I already know somebody, for example, I have a great realtor I've been working with in San Francisco, then I go to her. So I need realtors for all over California, and attorneys in other states will have the same need. But you also just need to develop that relationship and maybe know what the realtor specializes in. It's not enough just to know the realtor's name. You need to get to know that person and develop what I call a referral relationship. And this isn't something that you necessarily know intuitively. There's actually professional training out there on not just how to meet and network with people, but how to develop a profitable referral relationship. And I've taken classes on this. So with the people I work with, I get more business and give more business. So can I give a plug to an educational organization here?
Please do, because if you don't, I will.
Okay. It's called the Referral Institute.
Okay.
They are a referral marketing training company.
Yes.
And they are located throughout the United States. There is one here in the East Bay. I don't have their phone number, but referalinstitute.com will get you there. I know the one in the East Bay, real estate and realtors are one of their specialties. The lady who owns the company is Miley Colmer.
Mm-hmm. I have gone to a couple of their classes, and I concur. I think they have great courses, and they teach you how to establish power partnerships with referral partners.
Correct, like lawyer and realtor referral partners. So they teach you how to network. They tell you if you're going to go to see a group of attorneys, once you've found where we're hiding, and we're not scary, especially after a couple of drinks, you have to know how to deal with us. We don't want to be hunted. We want to be farmed. We want to get to know you before we start referring business to you. So even though I have some realtors that I really like here in Contra Costa, I had someone take my advice to heart, and I found out that she lives and specializes in one particular neighborhood, and her credentials are so strong, and she's had so much experience there, and it's a neighborhood that not every realtor likes, that I will remember her next time I have a property in that neighborhood.
That's great. So it's really just, it's cultivating. It's like, it's prospecting. It's like what realtors do on an everyday basis if they're farming geographically, but it's really cultivating that relationship with the attorney.
Correct.
I know sometimes as a realtor that we get intimidated simply by the fact that you're an attorney and we're just realtor, and sometimes we don't know how to approach you or how to start that relationship. And thank you for breaking it down. I mean, you are just a normal person like we are.
Right, but if you just send me a postcard,
that's not going to work.
Or leave me a message and offer me a bribe like another real estate company tried, that's not going to work.
Right. So what you're saying is attend the events that you and your colleagues are at, and start to meet you and go out to coffee, build a relationship, get to know each other, and it's a long-term relationship. It's not let me send you a couple postcards and
Correct.
And expect a result, expect a listing out of that.
Correct. And another thing you can do is once you have a listing and it's not with a realtor, an attorney that you normally work with, call the attorney and talk to them about how they want you to handle the sale. And it's different a little bit for probates versus living trusts. But in all these cases, you've got a dead client and there's special issues. And I, as the attorney, will walk you through some of the things you need to know so everything will run smoothly.
Good. That was my next question. So you will teach us how to work with you. Is that correct?
Correct.
And will most attorneys do that? Will they have the patience to do that with us?
No one else is as good as I am. Actually, most estate planning and probate attorneys are excellent at this because we are not the high-powered litigation attorneys. We are the get things accomplished for our client attorneys. We're the ones you'll enjoy talking to a lot more than maybe some of the litigation attorneys. So we really like to have a relationship with everybody working on our estates, the realtors, the accountants, the estate sale people, so we make sure we know what's going on and everything is done correctly.
So what I'm hearing you saying is that you are actively looking for a solid team, and not all attorneys have relationships with realtors, and you welcome having those partnerships.
Yes, please.
All right, listeners, did you hear that? Go ahead and make that effort to start establishing relationships with attorneys in your area and outside of your area, because attorneys cover a wide geographical area in certain cases. So what are some of the best and worst ways to work with attorneys?
Well, I think I covered some of the worst ways.
Okay.
Doing mass mailings and offering bribes aren't the best way to do it. The best way to do it is talk to the attorney and develop the relationship in advance so we can work with you on the sale. Sometimes these sales have special issues, or we have documents that the title company is going to want us to prepare. It's kind of annoying when I find out at 5 o'clock the night before that special documents are going to be required the next morning. So when I talk to you, the realtor, in advance, before we even are in contract, we can get what we need done and ready to go. Got
it. Okay. Well, can you tell me a little bit about this probate process, and how much does the agent interact with you? Because a probate sale is very, I don't want to say very different. It has different components to it than a traditional escrow process. What are those extra components?
Well, first we start with a dead body.
Okay.
So that's where we're going to either have a real probate sale or a trust sale. And they're both very similar because in most cases we have a representative now selling the property. And most of them are pretty straightforward. I've been handling this for almost 25 years and I've never had to go through court for a confirmation of sale. That usually doesn't happen, but we have to notify the heirs of the sale. So it's hard to do a sale overnight in a really quick escrow because we have to make sure the heirs approve of the sale or at least have notice of the sale. The key starting spot is once you have the listing, make sure that potential buyers and realtors know that this is an as-is probate sale or an as-is trust sale.
Okay.
That you want to get offers on the California Association of Realtors or your state forms that are the probate forms. Here we have specific forms for probate that have sections for trusts. I do not like the normal forms for estate sales.
Okay.
The nice thing about these probate forms is they have the as-is language I like. They don't have all the disclosure sections. Don't have your dead people make disclosures about their properties because their heirs really don't have a clue.
Right.
And if you try, then they're going to be on the hook if they make a mistake. You don't want them to try. You disclose to the buyers that this is an as-is estate sale, and you might want to consider having your termite and home inspection report done in advance so you can say, look, we may not know anything about the property, but we don't have anything to hide either. Here are the reports. You can take a look at them yourself or you can get your own.
Who's responsible for signing the listing agreement? Is that the executor of the trust or is that somebody else?
Yeah, you either have to have a trustee of the trust or you need to have the court-appointed executor. And this kind of gets into my next topic, which is about suggestions on how not to bring dead bodies into escrow.
Okay.
First, though, just make sure that you use the right paperwork. I also like what's called the as-is addendum, and a lot of realtors like to argue with me that this is repetitious and that it's already covered by the contract. Don't argue with me. It's better to do it because your buyer has signed it and has this piece of paper, and that really enforces to them that they're taking this property the way it is and they don't have a recourse against the estate after close of escrow.
Okay. When does the notification to the heirs start? Does that start when you take the listing or does that start when you accept an offer?
What happens is we have to send the heirs a document called a notice of proposed action in advance of the sale. We can have them waive it if they get along, and it would be wonderful if all of my heirs and all of my estates get along. You have to assume that they're not going to. Each state, the timing is going to be different, but you have to have the attorney in California at least send out a notice of proposed action to the heirs, and the title company is going to ask to see it to make sure that they received adequate notice. Other states will have a similar procedure. If they're getting along, we can have them waive the notice of proposed action for a sale over a specified price, which makes it a lot easier.
So does that happen when you take the listing or when you get an offer accepted?
So I would do that as soon as possible.
Okay. All right. And how long is that process before you can, how long do you have to wait before you can close escrow?
So well, it's going to depend upon where you're located. So you're going to need to ask your attorney for that. So
does it vary by city or county or state?
It varies by state.
Okay, so if we're in California.
So in California, we normally have 30 days. 30-day notice to the heirs before you close. So if the title company asks for these documents in your probate sale during escrow, you're in trouble. Right. You're either going to have to delay your escrow or try to get all the heirs, if they get along, to sign the waivers. So this is one of the documents you want to make sure you have with you when you open your escrow, and the attorney will guide you with that. But it's not the most important document to have with you when you open escrow.
What would you say is the most important document?
The most important document is the document that shows the title company that the person who's coming to escrow has authority to sign for the dead person.
Got it. Okay.
So a recent story, I was doing a talk for the California Real Estate Marketing Association, and there were a number of title companies in the room. And I asked them how many title companies had the experience of having people come into escrow, the docs are all ready, and then they're looking for, okay, where's Ethel to sign the papers? And the family is looking at each other and saying, well, Mom is dead, but the will said we get the property. And every title company in the room said that had happened to them. We cannot proceed with the signing. We can't bring the dead body into escrow. We have to have the title company prepared. Now, there's two ways this can go. If there's a living trust that owns the property, we're not in too bad shape. We'll probably need the trust document and some paperwork that the attorney prepares, an affidavit of death, and then we can proceed with the sale. So the delay, there will be a delay. Your docs all have to be redrafted, but perhaps we can sign in a day or two. But if this is a probate situation and they said, well, you know, we have a will, we think that means we get the property, you're going to lose your escrow because we have to go to court and get authorization, have an executor appointed before we can proceed. And the procedure depends upon where we are in the sale and who signed up to originally sell the property. So as a probate attorney, that's where I get a lot of my business. I get a panicked phone call, 5 in the afternoon, from the realtor usually, saying, my client is dead and the kids are selling the property and we need to close tomorrow. Can you go to court and get me the papers for it? And the answer is absolutely maybe. Depends on
how much you want to pay me.
No. Depend. Unfortunately, at least for regular probates, that the fees are set by law here in California. It depends upon who signed the listing agreement. If the decedent signed the listing agreement and had the poor fortune to die before close of escrow, we can go to court and get emergency powers. Here in California, it's called a special administrator, and we will get a document that will allow you to close your escrow right away.
Okay.
If the heirs, someone other than the decedent, signed it, the court says, too bad, you should have figured this out in advance, and they will not, at least not here in my experience, give us emergency powers. We have to start the regular probate process, and it will take at least 2 to 3 months before we have the power to sell the property. So you will most likely lose your sale.
Okay. All right. So I know you touched on this a little bit, but how else do you work with title companies on estate properties?
So what I like to do is make sure that we warn the title company in advance what kind of sale we have, provide them with the documents they're going to need, death certificate, will or trust, court authorization, if that's required, the notices to the heirs of the sale of the property. Get that in there on day one, not the night before the signing, and that will make sure your escrows go smoothly.
Okay.
But as realtors, your job is to make sure that the client you have that comes in and hires you actually has authority to sell the property. If you have that figured out, then you're going to save these last-minute problems. They won't come up for you.
So I heard you say that this probate process could take 2 to 3 months. Just to clarify, 2 to 3 months before we get everything we need from the court, or 2 to 3 months, does that include the actual escrow period and closing?
It does not include anything but just getting a person appointed by the court, issuing the documents they need to have authority to sell the property. The probate process itself takes anywhere from 9 months to several years to complete in California. But just to get an executor appointed takes a few months, assuming everybody gets along. Okay. That process can take years as well if the family or heirs are fighting over who gets to be in charge. And that's usually a big mistake because they learn later on that the winner of that fight then has to deal with daily harassment by the rest of the heirs. So a smart family, they fight over who doesn't have to be in charge. But the key is that it takes a long time to navigate this process. They have to give it time before they sell a property.
Okay.
If you're hired in advance before there's an executor appointed, you can put the property out there as coming soon or subject to appointment of an executor, but don't sign a contract with a buyer.
So once an executor is appointed, the realtor has a green light?
Correct. You'll get a magic document here in California. It's called either letters testamentary or letters of administration. Once you have that document, now you have a person that can sign an escrow, and you're going to give your title company a certified copy of that document.
Okay, so once we have that, and let's say we get into escrow, how long are you experiencing escrow taking?
So there really isn't there isn't a delay in escrow
Okay.
because it's an estate.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know. So any tips that you have for realtors about living trusts or taking title to properties?
I find that a lot of times when people buy a property, or these days refinance a property, nobody ever really gives them good advice about how to take title or what to do if they have a living trust. And I like to have the realtors and other people I work with look good. And in my opinion, one way for you folks to look good is when you have a buyer, just talk to them about taking title. Say, look, if you have a living trust, make sure you put your house in your trust. And one of two things is going to happen. They're going to say, oh, great, thank you for reminding me, I'm impressed. Or, gee, we don't have a trust yet, we haven't thought about that. And in California, most people who own a property should have a living trust.
And then at that moment, it's an opportunity to refer them to you?
That's a great way to make friends with estate planning attorneys.
Great. Okay, so listeners, as you are working with your buyers and you're getting them into escrow, my experience with buyers is that they hardly ever put their properties in living trusts. So use that as an opportunity to reach out to Joel Harris and call him with your referrals and start working together. And you're serving your client, you're serving Joel, and it's a giver's gain mentality because you are in turn helping Joel out with his business. You're showing him that you have your client's best interests at heart, and in turn he will take note of that, and he will want to work with realtors that have that sentiment towards their clients. Is that a fair statement?
That's a great statement. I also love realtors just to ask me questions. I don't send you a bill like the lawyer at the cocktail party story. And the best way to get a hold of me is at my email address. Very simple, joelharris@aol.com.
Well, that's simple. joelharris@aol.com. And what is your phone number or your office number if people need to reach out?
Area code 925-757-4605.
All right. Thank you. And any other hints and tips that you can provide?
There's one thing that kind of drives me crazy when I go personally into title companies. Actually, there are two things now, but what happens is, and you've probably seen this for your clients, if you take your clients into escrow, the title company is going to say, how do you want to take title to your property? And then they'll roll out a scroll of 72 different versions, and they won't give any advice at all. And your legal departments tell you the same thing.
Right.
But there's some very easy tips. One, of course, is if they have an estate plan, like a lot of people do, they can ask their estate planning attorney. But if you're a married couple, and you're buying a home for yourself and you have a living trust, the answer 100% of the time is you take title in your living trust. If you don't have a living trust and you're a married couple and you're buying a home together in California, you always want to take title as community property with right of survivorship. There is no better way unless you have a trust. Obviously, for a single person, unless you have multiple personality disorder, there's only one way usually to take title.
Right.
But help your clients a little bit with this, or steer them somewhere, or to someone like me where they can know the answer to the question instead of just flailing around in the title company, finally closing their eyes and pointing to something strange that's not going to work out well for them.
That's very helpful. I can't tell you how many times I've been with my clients and they've asked me, well, how should I hold title? And we can't. We cannot give them advice on that. We can just give them the descriptions and tell them to close their eyes and just randomly pick.
Right.
No.
Well, I can tell them exactly how to do it. The one other thing that's really driving me crazy these days that you all have to keep an eye out for is refinancing. Because of all the new rules for refinancing, banks do not want to have to look at people's trusts and make sure there's the power to refinance. So what they're doing now is they're having people flip their properties out of their trust, refinance as individuals, and then many title companies then forget to even advise people to put their properties back into their living trust. So many of my court cases involve going to court and trying to get properties back into trusts that people have refied out and never put back in, and then we have to go to court to put them back in. So be very, very careful for anybody doing a refinance. Make sure your property goes back into the trust.
Well, that's very, very helpful. Joel, tell me a little bit about your practice and who your target client is.
Well, I love people who own real estate.
Okay.
I help people through setting up their estate plans,
Okay.
taking care of business if they get sick, or helping them with long-term care planning, and then I help people administer estates when mom and dad or other family members have passed away. I am looking for people who own property or have heirs that they like. If you don't like your heirs, then it's a different kind of project.
Do you work in partnership with your clients and their CPAs or their tax attorneys to create these trusts as tax shelters as well, or no?
I usually work with a team for my client, but I'm doing most of the drafting and planning with my own knowledge and experience, not with other people. I only bring in CPAs and financial advisors for larger estates that may need tax planning. And everything about tax planning for estates has changed as of January 2nd of this year. If you have a classic 1990s AB or ABC trust, there's a good chance that it's out of date and needs to be rewritten based on our current laws.
So that's a good reason for our listeners to reach out to their clients, their past clients, if they know that they have an older trust, just to touch base with them and possibly use that as a referral opportunity.
Correct. It's amazing how many people will do a will or a trust and hide it or lock it in the safe deposit box and never look at it again. You have to pull them out every so often and make sure that you like your decisions and that your information on your assets is up to date.
I think this is very valuable. It gives this information you've just provided gives our realtors a reason to reach out to their database and past clients, and get back in communication with them and have a conversation. So before we go, we have one question from a listener, Chris Hinkle in Tahoe.
Hi, Chris.
And he says, many properties here in Tahoe are owned by trusts where the original owner has passed. The properties are in Tahoe, but the owners live in the Bay Area. Would it be best to network with attorneys in the areas where their heirs live?
Yes, absolutely. The problem with all the vacation properties, whether it's Tahoe or Hawaii, is to get the referrals. You're looking at actually probably the more affluent communities. You'll have some people in Tahoe, as you said, but if you come down here and advertise yourself as the Tahoe specialist, then I'm going to think about you when I've got a property up in Tahoe, because I don't have a realtor that I work with in Tahoe.
Did you hear that, Chris? This is a great opportunity for you. So to further clarify, it's okay if the property is in Tahoe and they have a California attorney.
Correct, unless you're on the Nevada side, and then we're going to look for a Nevada attorney to work with if we have to probate it there. Now remember, this is only for court. If people have things set up in a living trust, your sale is so much easier.
Okay.
Because we don't have to go through the court process. We save so much time and money if the property's in someone's living trust.
So when a realtor comes about a listing and the property is in a living trust, they should always get the attorney involved first. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Correct, because there's some documents that will be put together for the title company so you'll have an easy close. I get all the time requests at the last minute. Can you do an affidavit of death? Can we get a copy of the trust, an original death certificate, a certification of trust? These are papers I can draft, but it's hard to do them overnight.
Perfect. Joel, thank you so much for all of this valuable information and joining us today. And I am certain that you'll be receiving some phone calls and hopefully establishing some relationships with some of our agents as a result of this radio show and getting some referrals.
And if you have any agents in Hawaii, that's my next step, because just like Tahoe, a lot of people in California own property in Hawaii, and our California trust can own Nevada Tahoe property and own Hawaii condos and other properties. So it's good estate planning, and it's something I like to help people out with.
All right. Well, our listeners will certainly take that to heart, and we will be in touch with you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right. And so as we move on and get ready to transition to our next guest, I just want to remind you that this radio show will be posted on our YouTube channel, and I request that you comment on the video. If you have any questions of our next guest, please go ahead and type them, and I'll make sure to get those questions answered. But I first want to talk to you about First Alert and encouraging your buyers at your open houses to sign up for First Alert and get new property listings and even coming soon listings before they hit the market. When you are holding an open house, I encourage you to have a paradigm shift and not hold your open house to get buyers, but hold your open house in search of sellers and listings. If you change your thought process while you're holding your open house, your questions to your open house visitors will change. So think about that if you are very purposeful in determining if your guests need to sell a home before they get into the market of purchasing. Then that gives you the opportunity to take that relationship a step further and potentially get a listing appointment, exchange information, and become a resource for that visitor in that open house. And we know that buyers are always a given in our open houses, but if you change your thought process and make it a point to target sellers, I promise you that you'll get a completely different result in your open houses. So let's get started. We are going to talk to America Foy and Remy Weinstein from our Berkeley office. From Highland Partners. I'm so sorry, from Montclair, about generating an epic idea to brand yourself and close more transactions. Excuse me. Welcome, guys. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Good, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining KBHG in our Monday morning radio show. So tell me a little bit about Epic Homes of the East Bay contest. What is that?
Epic Homes of the East Bay is an opportunity for homeowners to showcase their houses. It started out as as an idea. Remy was meeting with one of his clients who had a huge list of things that he had done to his house. Very nice house, and he came back to the office that day, and we had just started working together. And he said to me, "We should have a coffee table book." And so that's basically how it started. Again, with any good idea, you have to be able to implement. Right. And so, my background is film and television production, which is what I did before I started selling real estate about 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago. And so I know that any type of idea is a great idea, but unless you can really implement the idea, it's not going to happen. So we went ahead and contacted a woman that we work with a lot named Cora Sue Anthony, who has a show on HGTV called Real Estate Intervention. Okay. And since I've been published before and nobody bought my book, right? I know for a fact that nobody wants to read anything from me. But with somebody who has a TV show, of course, and they're really interested in
right,
in what they have to say. So we went ahead and we took the idea, Remy's idea, for a coffee table book. And we just kind of, we brainstormed on it. And the best way for us to get the most exposure was to have a contest. And so the Epic Home Contest was born.
Okay, so Epic Home Contest specifically in Montclair area. Where do you target it?
It's the East Bay It's the East Bay from Oakland, from Fremont to Crockett, and then from the water to Danville, Livermore, Pleasanton, out this way.
Okay, and then not necessarily homes on the market.
No,
right?
It's not necessarily homes on the market, not at all. I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose, right? Defeats the purpose. What the real purpose is for us to, my theory about real estate is that, it's my job, and I've just gone back to high school, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm running for student body president. And so the more people I get to know, the more opportunities I'm going to have, or we're going to have to be able to sell people's houses. And so it's, on top of just doing the regular farming that we do, which is considerable, we also decided that, we're going to be the people that had the out-of-the-box idea to actually get in front of other people to show them we really do know what we're doing, and we're going to be able to market your house as, in the best that we possibly can, doing these special things.
This is exciting and an innovative way to brand your professional, company, right, if you will. So Epic Homes, did you coin that term, Epic Homes?
Remy.
Yeah, I just came up with the name, and basically, like you were saying, we just want to get in front of these people and network, and hopefully by spending a couple hours walking around their homes, letting them tell us about them, like you said, back in high school, hopefully they like us.
That is great. Okay, so is Epic Homes synonymous with uber luxury, ultra luxury?
No. There's a number of criteria for the houses. I mean, if we're looking at the whole entire East Bay, right? Well, that's Fremont, and that's Newark, and that's Union City, and so the basic criteria are size, size, view, location, history, the uniqueness of the house, the flow of the house. And so in some places like, from Crockett down to, Fremont, well, in Fremont there are some huge houses, but there are some places that we're not going to be able to get, an ideal Epic home. And so, we're looking more for maybe a fantastic loft in Emeryville, or something, the super greenhouse in Union City, or an estate in Castro Valley. So anything which is unique and is eligible for the contest.
So how are you creating awareness around this contest?
Well, like I say, we've gone ahead and hired LCO, which is Main Communications Online, to do our public relations for us, for of course Anthony and for us. We're doing a targeted marketing. We're both a big believer in farming. I do maybe 2,000 letters a month in geographic farming to 2 areas. Okay. So I'm really a strong believer in farming. We've had a number of magazine articles so far, 7x7 magazine, San Ramon Express, something in the Marin Independent Journal. So we're not just doing it ourselves. That's one of the things that it's an agnostic campaign, and we're not featuring ourselves. We're featuring, Corsi Anthony, and we're getting as much help as we possibly can. We're just an aside. We're the people that get to meet everybody.
Right. So you're out there just meeting and greeting and kissing the babies and just building the relationships for this coffee table book.
Exactly.
Right. So you will be the point of contact, the real estate expert, the real estate resource, and the judge, if you will, for this contest.
Well, two of the judges. We've also enrolled Ron Herman, is a real estate
very famous landscape architect. Did all of Larry Ellison's stuff. He did Joe Montana's thing. He's a client of ours. Their family's a client of ours. A gentleman named Bob Smiley, who's has a great architecture degree from some place in Chicago, a 5-year one, something very nice, also a client of ours. Of course, Anthony, and then Britta Stratton, who's the photographer for the book. So basically, we go out to someone enters the contest online, say www.epichomecontest.com. There's a entry form there. So Remy and I get those. We go out and we meet these people. We're basically the ones who call out the call out the ones that may not be quite as efficacious as we would like,
right?
And then we bring pictures and so on to the rest of the judges at a later time.
So I get that this is a concerted effort between a few sources,
right.
if you will. Now, if you don't mind me asking, the expense related to all of this, is this shared as well? Are you footing the bill for all of this because it was your idea?
Well, it takes money to make money.
Right.
And that's really the thing. It really takes money to make money. If we're going to skimp on marketing, right, we're not going to be able to meet as many people as we need to meet.
Right.
And so we are splitting the expense for for everybody who's a judge or a participant in the book. We're all bringing our skills. We're all donating our skills there. Britta Stratton, who is the photographer for the entire book, has had El Decor, Metropolitan Home, Sea Gallery, but she's bringing all of her talent for free. So we're all putting in our time and effort into the book. And of course, Sue was coming with design consultations. She's using her own staging people to come in because the people actually do get into the book. They receive professional photos of their home by somebody who's really great. The design consultation and staging for their home.
Right.
Of course, evaluation of their home.
Right.
And then an outside landscaping design, and then an architect's opinion about the house. And so they're getting all of those things, plus whatever gifts with cash and prizes that we're going to be giving out at the end.
Right. This is amazing. It kind of goes back to the segment with Joel and talking about leveraging relationships and how important cultivating those solid relationships is, and that's exactly what you're doing. You're going back to these relationships that you had from your media days, right, and bringing those to the forefront. They already know you, like you, and trust you.
Right.
So it makes it a little bit easier, although there's still a lot of legwork that needs to be done. Right. I commend you. This is great because we all have great ideas, and the implementation of them is what really takes our business to the next level.
That's pretty much all I had was a great idea. America does most of the implementation, and like you said, well, I guess we'll be paying the bill on getting these books printed up and sent out to everybody.
Well, there's also, Corsi's agent has been honored to get a book together for a while. So again, it was being able to do that. So she has an agent. We may possibly sell the book. Right now, we're planning on self-printing.
Got it. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the inspiration for this idea, but is there any more that you want to add around that?
I just think that, the East Bay is overlooked by a lot of people. I'm from San Francisco myself, and I know that just the idea of Oakland or the East Bay turns a lot of people off who don't know about all the beautiful, amazing homes we have. So, we really just wanted to highlight some of these beautiful properties, and I thought a coffee table book would be a great way to do that.
Just the diversity of, the diversity. There's, I did travel a lot in my last career, and there's a certain diversity that we can only find here in the East Bay. Culturally diverse, ethnically diverse, and the architecture and all the wonder that's here is really available. I mean, it's from the vineyards out in Livermore, right, to the greenest house in California, which is in Berkeley.
Right.
From the the tiny Victorian enclaves up in Crockett, down to the gigantic mega mansions in Fremont. I mean, there's so much diversity here, and it's so overlooked.
You're so right. I mean, it's really just a half hour any direction,
Right.
and you are in a whole new world.
Right.
And that's why most of us love living in the Bay Area. So this great idea is very innovative, and it's I'm sure that if it hasn't already had a positive impact on your business, it's going to, simply just by the relationships that you're creating and getting in front of different homeowners, different areas, and whatnot. Clearly, every listener that's on right now is not going to go and create a coffee table book, right? And
we hope not. We're coming to your area too.
It's a copyrighted.
Right. So
the idea is copyrighted.
Right. So my question is, what advice? I mean, taking this concept, not necessarily the book concept, but having an idea and implementing it. I mean, the implementation is the hardest part. What advice can you give our listeners as to taking a different approach to their business and stepping out of what's comfortable?
Well,
what it came from, like you said, was I was basically out with a client looking at their house, and they gave me a 3-page document about the materials and features of their home. And I really thought, okay, well, people who have these amazing homes, they love to talk about them. And, how can I leverage that and grow our business from that? So I think that would be my advice, is just to think of how you can get in front of different crowds of people.
Okay, and help build your brand in a creative way.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, there's also something to be said. I mean, I think so much of the marketing that we see personally is so vulgar, right?
Yes.
Twitter and Facebook. I mean, who cares what we're doing, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody cares what they're doing.
Right.
But
right.
Who cares what we're doing in particular?
Right.
And so, I've seen some pretty blatant, vulgar self-promotion recently, and I kind of resent it. Mm-hmm. And so I think, what makes me most happy is when I'm able to be of service and work with other people, right? And so this type of win-win, good for everybody, being able to push somebody else's ideas and help somebody else get out there really is the best way to kind of get myself out there, get ourselves out there as well. It comes from a place of service and wanting everybody to succeed.
Which is incredible, actually. It's, again, goes back to a little bit of the giver's gain. And Keith Robinson always talks about making emotional deposits with our clients or our potential power partners. And you make enough deposits, and believe it or not, these homeowners who are entering your contest, it's a gift to them simply by being able to, it's exciting to them by entering. And there's an emotional deposit that happens with that. And whether they're in the book or not, simply calling them and thanking them for their entry and talking about their home, they like doing that. There's a fulfillment that takes place. And so I think you'll be able to leverage that a little bit. And that goes into our last question is, you leveraging this project to build your real estate business. What are your plans? How long is this contest? How many people do you anticipate entering, and how are you going to leverage that?
Well, the contest is open until July the 15th. And we figured out that if we didn't have a lot of help in marketing it, we were either going to have to pull 40 houses out of the air, or we were going to be overwhelmed by the response. And so we've seen some really good response so far, but again, it's just going through and having other people help us.
Okay.
Right? I think we're only good at a couple of things. Mm-hmm. Right? I can mm-hmm. drive, and Remy can sell, and we're only good at a few things, and so we just try to stick to that. That's what we do best. So the schedule for the book is the contest is open through July the 15th, and then Remy and I are going out to each of the people that enter, contacting them, meeting them, going through their home with them. We take the pictures back to Britta and Cora Sue, and then we all kind of sit down and look at them. And then we go on a shooting schedule, hopefully starting in July, the beginning of July. We'll already have some houses picked out. We go through a shooting schedule, and hopefully we'll have a book out by, we would like to have it out by December mm-hmm. for Christmas, but we'll have it out at the beginning of this coming year, 2014.
So I trust you have a system in place to stay in communication with all of these people that have entered into the contest,
yes.
right?
Yeah, it's a gigantic new farm.
Yeah, that's exciting.
It's a gigantic new quarterly farm.
But the difference is, and you have the opportunity to meet every single one of these people. They are asking you to contact them, and that is huge. Right. So it's a stronger farm than your traditional geographic farm.
Well, it's non-aggressive. We're not really there to be selling you on anything but possibly getting your home in this book. So, again, I think as a realtor, it's hard to find situations to get in front of homeowners without coming off, very salesy, and I think that's a huge turnoff for most people. I know when I was in the car business before, and a lot of people just hate salespeople and have certain ideas that are already stuck in their head.
How long ago did you come up with this idea?
3 months ago, I think.
Oh, and you've made some great traction so
Right,
far.
right. I mean, the idea was so fresh and so immediate, right? And like I say, we had just started to work together as more of a team at that time, and I thought this would be like a great thing for us to really build our business together.
That's awesome. Right. So it's Epic Home Contest?
EpicHomeContest.com, and the book is going to be called Cora Sue Anthony's Epic Homes of the East Bay.
That's phenomenal. Thank you so much. Do you have any other pointers or tips for our listeners, not necessarily related to the book, but words of encouragement as far as, the courage that it takes to step out of your comfort zone and do something so drastically different that could potentially have a huge impact on your business?
I think that Ed Krafthouse said it best at the Top Producer Awards this year. He said, we tried a lot of stuff. Some of the ideas we had to take out and shoot. Right.
Right.
Some of the ideas we had to take out and shoot. But that's the thing, is to not be afraid.
Right. And it's okay. I mean, not necessarily talking about the book, but it's okay if we implement ideas and they fail.
Right.
And because there's always something to learn. There's always something that we've gained from it. And it's just important that we pick ourselves back up and we work to implement the next creative idea, and that's what will get us all to greatness. I appreciate you sharing your story of greatness with us here today, and I wish you the best of luck and success on your book. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that pretty much wraps up our show on KBHG, and I appreciate all you listeners staying in, and have a great and productive week. Thanks a lot.
She has an agent and works at Chronicle Books. I mean, she is